So here we go. We got Top Flow Sports Show with T-Main. And I'm going to give you guys an inside track on everything that I've seen, especially with this last game. We're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be real quick, real light. New channel, just now getting it up. And I'm thankful for everybody that's watching this. So we had Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns, first game of the year, division rivals. What do we expect from Cleveland? Everybody expect Cleveland to be Cleveland. You got Jamar Chase with bulletin board material saying, oh, they're elves and Cleveland is Cleveland, those type of things. Things that I look at and say, why would you light fuel to the fire when you haven't been able to beat these guys? You haven't been beating the Cleveland Browns barely over the last 5-6 years. Okay, they're 9 and they're 2-9 or something crazy against the Browns. I believe it's 2-9. So if they're 2-9 going up against the Browns, and then you end up playing them, and you're gonna start by saying things like, "Oh, the Browns are the Browns, Cleveland's Cleveland. They got an elf as a." I'm like, bro, you just stirring the pot. Now all you're gonna do is make Myles Garrett mad. Thomason, all these new defensive linemen that the Cleveland Browns have added to the team. Now they're free. They got a new D coordinator in Jim Schwartz, who's coming out there and letting everybody know it's a new day in Cleveland. We're not going to run the same vanilla defense where, you got DBs playing, 50 yards off the ball, can't stop the run to save your life. That's not it. We're going to scheme up different defensive packages than you guys ever seen before in Cincinnati from the Browns. Like, they finally got smart enough to move Myles Garrett around the line. Don't just keep him on the same spot, because teams can game plan for that. You don't know what to do when you don't know where Myles Garrett is going to line up at. And he's big enough, strong enough, fast enough to play any position on the defensive line. So he's playing basketball on the line while he's rushing over centers that can't stop him. They don't know what to do. They see Myles Garrett and they like, what the heck? And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because when it comes down to the defense, the secondary was amazing. You had great defense from Denzel Ward. You had a great defense from Greg Newsome. Like, a lot of these guys that, are very talented, just was under the wrong scheme, came out ready to play. That defense as a whole did everything they need to do. 3 points for the Bengals, 82 yards for Joe Burrow, who just got paid the highest guaranteed contract in NFL history. So he's the most highest paid player in NFL history, and he only had 82 yards. It's not just about the Bengals having a bad game. It's not just that, because the Cleveland Browns played in the same conditions that Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals played in. The same conditions. The weather was terrible. It was horrible. It sucked. But the thing is, the coaches for the Browns were able to adjust to the atmosphere. Nobody knew that the weather was going to be as bad as the weather was. But one thing about the Browns was they basically was able to adapt. Joe Burrow had a calf injury and such. We get that. It happens. But no excuses, because you came out there and you played. If you were that injured, you shouldn't have played, because 24-3, you could have threw your backup out there and lost 24-3 easily. It was more of the Browns. It was more of the Browns defense coming to play. They didn't let up all game. Usually, everybody's waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're waiting for the Browns to fall off and do something crazy and embarrass themselves, lose a late game. Didn't happen. No Cage York. They go and get a new kicker. I forget his name. Dustin. I know his first name, Dustin. It'll come to me. They got their new kicker. He comes out 3 for 3, made his extra points. It just was overall just a better feel in Cleveland than what I'm accustomed to from me being from Cleveland. I done seen a lot of bad teams, and this team right here, I can tell you, this is a different thing. They lost Jack Conklin, which is one of their best linemen, if not the best lineman they had on the team, and they plugged in my guy from Ohio State to play the right tackle spot. He did everything he needed to do. He didn't make any headlines, so that means he had to do something well. As far as the offense goes for Cleveland, for 24 points is not bad in the rain, especially, but they could have had easily 38 points. Deshaun missed a few passes deep to Goodwin, Marquise Goodwin, which I understand because the weather. Look at Joe Burrow. Listen, if anybody's people are not giving Deshaun Watson enough credit for this game. He was able to make things happen in the weather conditions. Nobody's saying anything about that. They're just giving excuses for Burrow for why he sucked. But in all actuality, what about Deshaun Watson making his plays when he needed to make the plays? He made plays with his feet, something that he has over a lot of quarterbacks. A lot of quarterbacks aren't out there running. Like, he's not even sliding. He's running right into defensive players as if he's a running back. He's not doing that so often to where you're nervous, but it's still like, okay, he got some wheels. So he can get the job done more than one way. He still had more passing yards than Joe Burrow as well. So he's able to pass the ball in these conditions. He's even running the ball in these conditions. The special teams did what they needed to do. I seen some great punts. They kept the Bengals in bad field position, and with the weather being bad, it's hard to overcome that. So all in all, I give the Browns a 9 out of 10 that first game. The only reason I won't give them a 10 out of 10 is because it was a few turnovers in that game. And, we had the backup running back fumble. We had an interception by Watson, tip ball. So that's the only reason I'm not going to give them a 10 out of 10, because they had the 2 turnovers. They only had 5 penalties. It's not like the Browns was clicking on all cylinders. The national media is just afraid to jump on the Browns bandwagon because the Browns always let you down, because how long they wanted a historic franchise has been around just as long as pretty much everybody else, and they haven't won a championship since Jim Brown. God rest his soul. I wanted him to see the Browns get a Super Bowl this year. But he just passed recently. That's why they got the 32s on their jersey for Jim Brown. We haven't won a championship in Cleveland since then. So if you put all of that together, you are going to get the national media hesitant to give the Browns the kudos and the respect that they deserve. Although it's only one game, the Browns haven't won a opening home game since 2004. A lot of people that's probably watching this probably was kids or wasn't even born then. This was 19 years since the Browns won a home game opener. That says a lot about how bad the franchise is. So, of course, the national media is not ready to jump on the bandwagon. But me, I'm in the Cleveland city, and I get to see all of the moves they made, everything, all the pieces they picked up, which correlates with what the offense and the defense is trying to do this year. And it all came into fruition. Yesterday. Y'all saw it. The Browns are for real. Give them their props. It's your boy, T-Main, Top Flow Sports Show. Hey, holla at me, man.